changing you. I was like,
Oh, no, I'm keeping this one for a long, long time.
Well, I don't know if I would call 2 years a long time, but I guess that's what we've got to work with. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out if you're new. And so of course, you've already seen the title of the video. You know what we're here to talk about, and that's of course the fact that unfortunately this past weekend we said goodbye to Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor in the most recent episode of Doctor Who, The Reality War. Here we see a bunch of timey-wimey reality-bending nonsense that ends with the 15th Doctor's regeneration, due to unleashing his regeneration energy into the time vortex to rewrite reality. Now, I could talk all day about how I don't like the magic stuff in Doctor Who, and how this whole finale was a mess, but I'm specifically here to talk about how just overall, I feel like Ncuti Gatwa was robbed of a fair shake as the Doctor. So, I wanted to quickly just kind of talk about my feelings on the 15th Doctor / the handling of his departure, and why I feel like his run just wasn't a fair run at the Doctor. So starting off with some positives. Of course, like I just said, I loved Ncuti Gatwa's 15th Doctor. I thought he was new and refreshing. You know, he was on the younger side of those actors cast as the Doctor. And with this new, young, youthful Doctor came a lot of fun. Like, he was a Doctor who knew how to have fun. We literally see him in his debut episode partying, as well as he uses a lot of modern dialogue and sass and talking back to his companions and allies, which was refreshing compared to maybe the more refined talk of the 12th Doctor. Granted, the 12th Doctor has become one of my favorite Doctors over the last few years, but he was also one of the kinder iterations. I think the Doctor is someone who should always be kind. I know that's something that has been played around with a lot in recent years, but I think he was definitely the kindest for the most part. Like I said, I really like 12. 12 is someone who, like, he starts as the cranky old man and slowly he learns to be kind and loving. And ever since then, it's been up and down. Like Jodie Whittaker's Doctor. While I love Jodie Whittaker, the writing of her Doctor is probably the worst we've seen in a while. And funny enough, she acknowledges it here in Reality War when she makes a cameo appearance, because she's like, oh, reality and timelines are all mixed up because of what you've done, so here I am to exposition that. And it was great seeing her again, but she even acknowledges, like, I don't feel love, I don't feel compassion. And so I felt like Ncuti was the jump back into it after having Jodie's, like, cold and emotionless Doctor. Now we have Ncuti's 15th Doctor, who is the big, lovable teddy bear. And while I know a lot of people made fun of the fact that he cried in every episode, I would rather have him cry than just have no reaction at all to the horrors of the universe. But that being said, while he was a great Doctor, his run was such a mess. And it was criminally short. When you look at it, I think besides Eccleston and Paul McGann, I'm pretty sure he has the shortest run of any Doctor, with a total of 2 specials. You know, the 2 Christmas specials. I guess you can also count the giggle, so 3 specials, but the giggle isn't really about him. He just shows up at the end for the bi-generation. And then between his 2 seasons, he has 16 episodes. That's so short. For context, that's like the length of 1 season for the past Doctors. Past Doctors have gotten from anywhere from 10 to 16 episodes in a season. So the fact that his 2 seasons were the criminally short 8-episode seasons, because that's how we do TV now. We take 3 years making 8 episodes of television. Oh, it didn't even give him any time to really explore and experience things, because we also had to have the big mystery boxes. In those only 16 episodes, we had 2 mystery boxes, and they just all led to nothing. And on top of that, in those 16 episodes, there are at least 3 Doctor Light episodes. If you're not familiar with that term, Doctor Light is an episode of Doctor Who where the Doctor either doesn't appear or is barely in it. So for Ncuti Gatwa's run, there was 73 yards, dot and bubble. You could maybe count Boom, only because he is stuck on the grenade the whole time, so he can't do anything. But that is also, he is very much in that episode. The main one I'm thinking of is Lucky Day, where he's barely in it at all. It's mostly a Ruby-centric episode. So in total, if you take away those Dr. Light episodes, now we're down to 13 episodes with the Doctor as our main character. Which, again, isn't much time. And I know I feel silly saying this, because we only had 13 episodes with Christopher Eccleston's 9th Doctor, and there are people who will tell you he's their favorite. But for Ncuti, I think it became the problem of we were trying to reinvent the show while also introducing his Doctor. Because with the 60th anniversary special, we introduced magic into the universe. So like I said, I could go on a whole rant on how the Doctor Who magic is so bad. But just looking at that, we now have to spend how much of the big overarching story explaining all this magic stuff, because that's the big mystery each season. You know, the first mystery was Sutek and Ruby's mom, and all them like magic snowing and things like that. And then in season 2, it's we can't go to May 24th, and there's some like magic wish baby going on, and it was a big mess, and I felt like he got the short change because we had to focus his 13 episodes that he's in, refocusing and rebuilding the show in a sense, to now like this is the magical era of Doctor Who. And I feel like that robbed him of his time as the Doctor. On top of that, I know we all said we were sick of the Daleks and the Cybermen every season, but I kind of miss them with Ncuti's run. Like, this run, they did a lot to introduce a lot of new original villains, so bringing back more classic Who villains, which I'm not opposed to bringing back the classic Who villains. I think they were just done poorly here. Think of the Master when he was brought back in the 2005 revival of the show. They sprinkled it, they explained who he was, and then we had the Doctor confront him. Versus here with characters like Sutek and the Rani, we just have to, throw the 15th Doctor right at him, go get him, without any explanation of who they are. On top of that, I think the Daleks and the Cybermen give us a good baseline for the show. Almost every Doctor has faced either a Dalek or a Cyberman. And that's because these classic villains give us a good jumping off point to understand how this Doctor approaches his enemies. For example, 9 is afraid of the Daleks, being fresh off the Time War, while 11 kind of treats them as a joke, and then 12 tries to show them compassion and tries to help them with the whole Davros situation. And so I know we said we were sick of seeing them because they showed up a lot in 11's run and a lot in 13's near the end. But I think they were needed here, especially because, like I said, this was like the reinventing of the show. And I feel like a Dalek or a Cyberman could have given us at least okay, at least this is still the same. So I think without it, again, we spend all our time having to learn about these new villains. Like, that's also where the classic villains help, because then we don't have to re-explain a Dalek. We just have the Doctor like, these are the Daleks, they're the enemies of the Time Lord. This is what I, the 15th Doctor, am going to do to beat them. But instead, 15 has to pause the show to explain who Sutek is, explain who the Rani is, explain who Omega is. And speaking of the Rani, Sutek, and Omega, all of the overarching mysteries in his show take up so much time, like I said at the beginning of the video. And none of them have satisfying endings, which just kind of make you feel like you wasted your time. And it's like, I would have rather just seen more adventures. I've said it for both of the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who that I really like the individual episodes. Like, I enjoyed the Doctor and Ruby traveling together, and I like the Doctor and Belinda traveling together. But then in season 1, we have to answer the mystery of what's wrong with the TARDIS and what's up with Ruby's mom. And the answer is, magic, because Sutek was there the whole time. And then season 2 is why can't we get Belinda back to May the 24th? Because the Rani is trying to summon Omega, who's trapped in the Underverse, and therefore they have rewritten all of reality. And it creates these big spectacles. And with those big spectacles, maybe this is the wrong take, but I feel like in the first season of Ncuti's 15th Doctor, at least, he is almost overshadowed by the mystery of Ruby Sunday. Because in every episode we have something happen to Ruby that triggers some magic thing, and then the Doctor has to analyze it and figure it out. And so, again, I feel like he's been overshadowed by the mysteries of his companions or the villains in the show. And with these big mysteries and big villains, I feel like he never got just a relaxed finale, and it led to his run feeling a bit exhausting. Every Doctor before him has had at least one small-scale finale, depending on how you view it. Like the 9th Doctor, his finale, he's not trying to stop the end of the universe or anything like that. He's literally just trying to stop the Daleks from blowing up this space station. The 8th Doctor, in his one debut movie, with his criminally short run as well, he's literally fighting the Master over control of the TARDIS on Earth. Like, that's it. That's all there is to it. And here, 15 has to shoulder the weight of stopping the death or rewriting of the universe every season. In season 1, Sutek literally unleashes a wave of death that kills the entire universe. And then the Doctor has to go bring the entire universe back. Then in season 2, we have the Rani rewrites reality to bring back Omega, which again forces the Doctor to have to rewrite reality again to save everybody. And with these big finales, I feel like it robs us of the small moments. Like, think of 12's first finale, where it is simply him, Missy, and Clara trying to figure out how to solve the Cyberman problem that is only a threat to Earth. It's such a small-scale threat compared to this, where it is, again, the entire universe. And so the Doctor doesn't have time to sit down and talk with his companion or express his thoughts and feelings. Like, I don't even think the Doctor really expresses, I know you could say that he's afraid of Omega and Sutek and the Rani, but not really. He just kind of says they're bad and then defeats them. And so it doesn't give us any insight into how his Doctor would problem solve or try to get around the problem of a smaller threat. Because like with Sutek, you have him destroy the universe and you're like, oh, okay, well, obviously the Doctor has to undo that. Versus in a finale where Missy is turning people into Cybermen, you're like, okay, how is he going to shut down the Cyberman production and stop Missy? It's a much smaller, and it allows for the Doctor to think of how he's going to solve this problem. Versus, like I said, I feel like both times the 15th Doctor was just, I have to take down the big CGI villain, and now the world is safe. And speaking of those big CGI villains, I said that the companions took a lot away and the villains took a lot away. I feel like overall, the 15th Doctor / Ncuti Gatwa didn't have room to grow because they were surrounded by the member berries of it all. If you're not familiar, the member berries is a joke from South Park where they're basically nostalgia berries. They tell you, remember when that happened? And basically all of Russell T Davies' run number 2 has just been member berries. Like the 15th Doctor doesn't get any enemies of his own. He's surrounded by classic villains and classic companions like Mel. I'm not opposed to Mel coming back. It was actually nice to see her, and it was nice to see the Doctor react to her to kind of get that establishment of the Doctor doesn't just regenerate and forget you forever. On top of that, I truly thought Ncuti Gatwa was going to end up being the father of Susan's parents. You might remember Susan, the granddaughter of the Doctor, and we have yet to get an answer to where she's come from. And they teased it how many times with him. And I know Doctor Who has done that in the past. Like they did that with River Song, where she shows up and she's hanging out with David Tennant and she's like, but you're not my doctor. And then she marries Matt Smith and then spends her final night with 12 and so forth. But here I felt like the Doctor, this specific version of the Doctor, this is very specific to 15. The other Doctors have not like even mentioned her before in the revival. But here 15 talks about Susan so many times, and he even has like flashes and glimpses of her in the singing contest episode. But it doesn't go anywhere, and it doesn't matter, and it's never touched on again. And to top it off on all that, he is unfortunately bookended by the two member berries, in that he regenerates not from Jodie Whittaker, but he bi-generates from David Tennant in the 60th. So he's already coming off of the high of everybody being like, oh my god, David Tennant's back. And then he regenerates into Billie Piper. So now everybody's, woo, Billie Piper's back. And it's like, well, what about Ncuti here in the middle? Like, I feel like you guys are, I don't know. It feels wrong. It feels dirty to me. We just did it. We just had 13, which I've seen people pointing that out online. And I think maybe they're looking in it too deep, but I do think there is something to be said about the fact that the first female Doctor regenerates into David Tennant and the first black Doctor regenerates into Rose Tyler. But with all that being said, I do want to say that maybe there's hope. Friend of the channel, Phil with 1L, as well as many other people online, have pointed out that in the credits, it does not credit Billie Piper as the Doctor, which the show has always done. So Phil with 1L pointed out to me that maybe hopefully with this year, 2025, being the anniversary of the revival, that maybe we're just bringing Rose Tyler back for a special, like David Tennant, and she will regenerate or degenerate back into Ncuti Gatwa. Especially because I could see this happening, because there have been rumors going around that it's Ncuti Gatwa's choice to leave, that he's done with the show, / he wants to do other projects, but can't because he's filming Doctor Who. And I could see where they do, like, this, I don't know what you even call it, this weird, like, not a Doctor Billie Piper season or special, or a couple specials. And then when Ncuti's schedule is clear again, he comes back as the 15th. That would be my dream. But I have a bad feeling we might be stretching too far. But that's my hope here. That would make this whole video totally irrelevant. But again, who knows? And so with that being said, I do want to say that if it was his choice and he wasn't forced out of the role, as if he wanted to leave, I understand. He's a younger actor, like I said, one of the youngest Doctors we've had. And so I'm sure he wants to go off and explore his career more. So if he does not return to playing the 15th Doctor, while Doctor Who might have fumbled the ball on his run, I wish Ncuti Gatwa a great and exciting run in his career going forward. I'd love to see him in more things. He's been in Sex Education as well as Barbie, which is also crazy that they just made the Barbie doll of him that is releasing like next month, and now he's gone already. Like, surely that had to have been a flub on the timetable. I don't want to get too heavy into speculation on why he left, because again, we don't have any official confirmation. I will give the show credit that they did try to keep this as secret as they could. I know I've seen retroactively that it did leak like months ago, but I'm glad they were able to keep it hush-hush, versus normally they announce, like we would have heard. I mean, they ruined the end of Jodie Whittaker's run by announcing David Tennant's coming back. So that is one thing I will give them credit for, that his regeneration was a surprise. No one saw it coming. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the messy run of the 15th Doctor and how Ncuti Gatwa, if you will have us, I'm sure all the Whovians would agree with me that we would gladly welcome you back. But those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on Doctor Who / the 15th Doctor / this whole mess in the comments down below. If you liked what you saw here and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when the next one's coming. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.